Wormhat. This is part 2 of Speak About Truth, and I just want to go through this list of topics. I didn't write these, but I think they're really good topics, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to go read these yourself. So this is vaguely about school. Knowing that all history is a pack of lies, look for huge old buildings with underground windows buried in mud. Flood remains. Pre-flood buildings are all owned by elites. Many turn into institutions like hospitals, banks, government buildings. Universities are a big one. When I had an office once in a building in a university that had floors underground, and they had windows that were more than halfway underground. And yeah, that's not normal. That's not how you build a building. They'll try to pretend like that's a thing. Like, people will say that, oh, it's to get light in the basement. But they're not even basements. It's like a half basement, so it doesn't make sense. And a lot of times these floors that are underground, they'll have old archways and things where you look at it and you're like, that looks like it used to be a doorway. And a lot of times they'll even tell you. There was a building really close to where I live, actually, and now it's a museum. You know, all those museums that are the same, you go inside and they have weird little old-timey stuff set up, and they all seem to have Nazi stuff for some reason. Like, there's no reason to, but all of these little, like, podunk town, oh, here's our museum, they have Nazi stuff in it for some reason. They just got to keep their programming alive. They'll always have World War II stuff, and they got to just keep all those fake history things alive, even though there's no reason to have that in the museum. Anyways, this building, they told us, like, part of the history of the building was, oh, there used to be an entranceway here, but they added these 2 wings onto the building and they sealed up the entranceway, and then they built this new entrance. That happens all the time. All right, let's just keep going. 100% of elites and institutions are satanic. Yep, humans are not ever allowed to explore them unless they find secrets. They're all about their secrets. Secret societies, secret museums probably really do have secret basements where they keep the real stuff. Secrets are all either truths or red herrings slash decoy truth. Great flood, and so I'll just say about that, because a lot of ways that these institutions work, even if you learn a lie, even if you learn like a secret behind a lie, a lot of times what you're learning is like you're learning a new lie. It's just a better one than the one that you used to believe. And I'm sure I could come up with examples, but that's what Freemasons always say. Like, the higher level Freemasons always twist their words with the lower level Freemasons. Not so much that they're lying, but that they're still concealing the truth. All right, continuing. Great flood probably happened 1,000 years ago. Tons of fake animals are made up to try to discredit Noah's Ark. Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I think, that mud flood is clearly a tranny-run opposition. There wasn't a huge rush of mud. To me, what it looks like is a bunch of buildings just sank. Well, that makes sense. If you had a whole earth-wide flood, the ground would get really saturated. And if you had heavy buildings, masonry buildings, they would sink into the saturated ground, into the mud. It wasn't a mud flood. It was buildings sinking after the flood. All right. Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand why the fake animals. Well, it proves evolution. It helps prove their evolution cause, and it's mocking Noah's Ark. If there's 500 trillion animals, then how do they all fit on the ark? So they're mocking that. Hidden in plain sight. That's how Satanists operate. World's probably 20 literal years old. No AD, no BC. I agree with that. For all I know, Jesus Christ lived 200 years ago. So the 2000 year thing, and then the BC, the AD, it's all so questionable. I don't know why. If you're a truther, if you're a real skeptic, I don't know why you would just take that stuff at face value. Controlled opposition, fake Christians. Another big topic. Yeah, most Christians are totally fake, total phonies. Fake animals, I mean, they're trannies, most of them. Fake animals are a huge topic. I agree. Native Americans is a huge topic. Hopi is a prime example of a fake culture. But red and white people inhabited North America before the flood. It was never colonized. I agree with that. I don't know. Native Americans, they just look like Mongolians to me. They're just whatever. They're not their own thing. The whole Native American culture is so shallow. You can just tell. And all that you have to know is all the casinos now is just mocking. That's their punishment. You know how Satan works? Satan will let you do your little show and pretend to be holy or whatever, but just think of how all the Christian famous pastors, it'll eventually come out, oh, they're gay, when really what, they're a tranny. Satan makes you pay the price eventually. So I think that's why all the Native American people, it's like, oh, you guys got to play the holier than thou, we love nature thing. Now you got to have casinos. Now they got to make money for the system. English is a fake language derived from Chaldean, Bible's in Chaldean. It was not translated. I tend to agree with that. Jesus Christ, not Yahshua, not Yahawashi, was warning his audience about how they'd be hunted down and killed or deceived. I would add they're deceived. Always telling you to not be deceived. And yeah, I'm a strong believer in Jesus Christ. I don't believe in any of those, what people say, ancient Hebrew. How do you know? You're not in ancient Hebrew. So how do you know anything about that? Oh, the letter J didn't exist. Well, how do you know? Were you there? So you think that just because the letter J didn't exist, that the J sound, I don't know, I don't buy any of it. All those, they're really bad arguments. The Victorian era happened right after the freaks were victorious in murdering all the adult humans so that the humans could not pass on true history being dead, thus orphaning thousands of human children. So again, I'll just say I didn't write down all of these. I'm not saying that everything I'm reading is 100% fact. These are just theories. These are just things to think about. I think this is really interesting because I do agree that Victorian era, it's when the trannies, the eunuchs, they were victorious and taking over the whole earth. Think of how much of a meme it is to control the world, to control the whole world, to own the earth. They have it. And the Victorian era could have been when they were victorious. I agree. I think this thing about the orphans is really interesting because it's not something that I've studied or looked into, but I know this person and they say that around that time there were tons of orphans, huge orphanages and that seems right to me. Didn't orphans used to be a really big thing? So maybe there's a connection there. They were killing all the normal parents, and it left a bunch of orphans. They could even do it discreetly. Just the little children who have normal gendered parents, they could just go discreetly, kill the parents, and then just take the children away and say, oh, I don't know, your parents died in a car accident or something. Well, it's the Victorian era, so whatever the Victorian era equivalent of a car accident. They fell out of the bell tower while they were on a date. I don't know. They make something up. Okay, Industrial Revolution is when the controllers received the pre-flood machines. So this is, again, not my theory. I just think it's really interesting to think about this kind of stuff and the possibilities. Industrial Revolution is when the controllers revived the pre-flood machines, which were filthy for 100 or 800 years and polluted a lot. Now they could produce pre-flood technology. I think of all the major cities like Paris and London, they have thick black tar on it. The stories that they tell us are probably twisting the truth. They tell us about the Industrial Revolution, but was it natural? Did they really invent all of those things? So here's another theory. Maybe they weren't inventing all of that stuff, but what they were doing was reviving old technology, trying to get it back and going. And the reason that it was so dirty, it's because it had been flooded, and they were reviving all these old machines. Okay, so yeah, again, just a theory. That's why after centuries of pulled wooden carriages, bows and arrows, automobiles, guns, and the like suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Yeah, it all happened so fast, right? It all happened really fast. Why do Zelda games, Elder Scrolls, Tolkien works, Dungeons & Dragons, all high fantasy media look the same? And yeah, this is a good point. Fantasy should be anything is allowed in fantasy, but think about how fantasy is always kind of the same thing. And everything in Training Land is backwards. Fantasy is reality. Reality is fantasy. The fantasy genre, notice how it always has the same elements to it. If it really was fantasy, it should be anything goes. It should be totally different, every fantasy story, but they all have the same things. It's because it's reality. It's not fantasy. So, yeah, well, that's what Bible Days actually looks like. I agree, that probably is. Fantasy genre is probably imitating, I think fantasy genre and medieval times is both biblical. Also, trolls, giants, dragons, elephants, turtles being turned into stone. I guess that's a thing that happens. Tons of the Bible content has been purged, and that the Book of Enoch, that says women don't have souls. Also, there's a talking baby in the Book of Enoch. Jasher, whatever. Other easily accessible missing pieces, emerald tablets, Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah, anything like that they give to us, probably too good to be true. And you can just tell things are weird about it. Like the Book of Enoch, it has some really great stuff, but you can just tell that there's odd stuff. You can tell it clearly turns into this Jewish mysticism stuff near the end. So what happened? Is the whole thing fake? It was probably just corrupted. That's what I think. Anyways, let's just keep going. So where's the real lost Bible content? I don't know. Maybe in the Vatican somewhere they have the real Book of Enoch. That would be my guess. This person also believes the genealogy stuff and the New Testament letters are junk. I tend to agree. Well, I just usually skip I talk about that all the time. I say if you're reading the Bible and it's just like dragging on, or you're not really interested in what's on that page, just flip the page. So genealogy stuff I usually pass by. New Testament letters I don't really read. Not very often, at least. It's just, that's like the Pauline stuff, and I'm not a huge fan. People are conditioned to despise the elderly. A long running smear campaign has been used against old people to discourage young people from talking to them. The tranny thing has always been going on, even before the flood, but Victorian era marks the official start of history. Star Wars opens with a long time ago in a galaxy far away. No, Star Wars began when it went into production in its filming location. Long time ago equals when its script was being written. Far away galaxy equals Hollywood, California, USA. I think that's a pretty interesting thought. Whenever a wave of truth breaks out, the freaks scramble to do damage control. Moon landing's fake? Oh, we're trying to intimidate Russia, guys. Transpocalypse? Only the Hollywood women are trannies and no one else is. Or the wave of Tumblr fags. Flood remains. They came out with Mud Flood, which is probably a poop reference. Probably, I agree. Someone figured that the 33 Orange Club of lying dick girls call themselves Freemasons because they got those old brick buildings for free. Yeah, that was a really smart YouTube comment. Whoever figured that one out, that was good. I agree. They're probably called Freemasons because they got all those Mason buildings for free after the flood. They really are weak and stupid. It makes sense that modern buildings suck compared to flood remains. I also agree there. Stuff today is all cheapo plastic. If you go into the old school cathedrals, which are probably pre-flood, compare those cathedrals to modern churches, it's a joke. The Freemasons today are a big joke compared to pre-flood people. Hopefully this somewhat tells the reader what we'll get into. Keep in mind that Satanists know the Bible inside and out for the purpose of inverting everything it says. Reality versus fakeality. So just some ideas, some good topics to just think about. Let me know in the comments what you think, or if you have your own ideas, or if you like some of these or didn't like. All right, God bless everybody.